Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the YouTube channel. I am John Kurtz. Thank you to each and every one of you who are here, who have subscribed. Continue to do so if you haven't right now. If you're a college football fan into conference realignment, if you're a Big 12 football fan specifically, click subscribe, like the videos, and comment, man. I want to know what you guys think about all of this. I enjoy the back and forth. I enjoy the banter. And hey, guess what? It helps me out with the algorithm, all right? So please, if you like the content, comment, like, subscribe. All of that helps immensely, and I appreciate all of you guys. We have some updates today, okay? So Bob Bowlsby had the following to say, and this is where I want to start. There's a slew of information to come out of this, but I want to start with this. Big 12 Commissioner Bob Bowlsby told Drew Davison, or this is being reported by Drew Davison of the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. I should not say he told him that specifically. But Bob Bowlsby said, quote, he's talked with ESPN representatives about not letting the feud escalate publicly. Okay, so if we wind this back to last week, Bob Bowlsby all of a sudden took to task ESPN very publicly by accusing them basically of colluding with the AAC in Texas and Oklahoma to get ESPN out of $1 billion left on the Big 12 TV contract, and also get Texas and Oklahoma out of the exit fees. Massive accusations made by Bob Bowlsby, right? So it was a crazy story, and it was very public, and Bowlsby had comments then that were officially relayed to a bunch of different media outlets. Well, since then, things have quieted down after ESPN's statement that they basically disagreed and said everything was false. Now Bob Bowlsby appears to be trying to handle things behind closed doors, which is much more in his nature, right? Bob Bowlsby, if you've ever heard him talk, one of the most monotone guys that you could ever hear, very mild-mannered, respected guy for sure, but he's not somebody that you expected to come out guns a-blazing like he did, like he was in Braveheart or something, ready to charge the front lines like he did last Wednesday. This is more along the lines of what I would have expected. And my concern here is that he still keeps the foot down on the gas pedal, because as somebody that is now one of the 8 schools that are being left behind here in the Big 12 and trying to figure out what to do with themselves, I want my guy to be going out there with his full suit of armor. I want all the guns. I want all the ammo. I want everything that he has. The Big 12 really has nothing to lose, and the schools that are left really do not have much to lose. So I say, to heck with ESPN. Like, let's bring the fight public. Make it as public and messy as possible. Bowlsby is a much wiser man than I, and he's a very smart administrator. He's been around for a long time. Obviously has his flaws, and you can say what you will about some of the mistakes he may or may not have made, but he is a respected guy. And so I'm sure there's some calculus here, probably even beyond just the typical, like, he wants to abide by the decorum that he usually would, right? And maybe it's something about the TV deal. Maybe it is the bite the hand that feeds theory, where everybody said when this first happened, like, man, you're going to go after ESPN. At some point, you'll have to sign another TV contract, right? Are you going to just bomb that right now? And to that, I say ESPN was already working against you and clearly doesn't want to pay you very much money anyway, so who cares? And that brings it back to this. Again, I would just say, be public, be messy with it, because who cares? ESPN's not going to give you a good deal anyway, and the damage is already done. Right? I mean, Bowlsby basically came out on Facebook and just said, hey, my wife's cheating on me. Everybody saw, man. Like, Grandma Jean saw that. That's not coming back. Even if you're going to try and be respectful the rest of the way, everybody's going to remember that. Grandma Jean will have that seared into her brain. Right? So to me, it's like, I don't know what the reasoning is for that specifically, but I would just continue to come after ESPN, assuming that Bowlsby is really still committed to this and feels very strongly, which by the language and the wording that he used the rest of the time, one of the updates was he felt like there were actually even more than one conference. It was not just the AAC that was trying to tamper here. It seems like he still feels very convicted in the evidence that he does have. I just hope it means that in courts and behind closed doors, Bowlsby will continue to do what it sounded like publicly he was going to be very willing to do, which is go fight as hard as he can. Because again, like that, you can fight differently here if you're Bowlsby than everybody else can, because there's really less on the line for you. There's less on the line for Bowlsby and the 8 teams here. There are just not as many options, and you're the one in a desperate situation. The person on Twitter who has 2 followers and is a Twitter egg is going to be much more inclined to say whatever terrible, dirty, nasty thing they can to somebody else, because they don't have this following or a brand or any of that stuff to worry about. There's much more to lose. You know, if you're Texas, Oklahoma, the SEC, the AAC, certainly, they have much more to lose. The Big 12, everybody already left you behind. You've been the joke. You've been the meme for so long. Who cares? Who cares, man? So just keep the fire. Bob Bowlsby. That is all I want to reiterate and make sure here. Now, I'm going to run down some of the other updates that I did see out of this today for you. Some good, some bad, some that are very interesting looks. One of those being that TCU's chancellor said we're going to make the Big 12 great again. And to that, I would just say, like, I maybe like read the room here. The Big 12 is already the butt of a lot of jokes, and trying to piggyback off of a political statement, I don't know is the best way to go about that, just in any way, shape, or form, in terms of making yourself the butt of more jokes and or just making people angry. I would just stay away from that. If I could give the Big 12 any advice, I would stay away from doing any more of that. Max Olson had this. Max Olson, who writes for The Athletic. Baylor Athletic Director Mack Rhodes, quote, many of my colleagues around the country believe that the University of Texas created this situation because they think so highly of themselves. My humble opinion, I completely disagree. I think it's because they felt too little of themselves. So I guess the logic there being like you didn't stick around just to run the Big 12 because you didn't think you were good enough. You thought you had to go to the SEC to really truly join the elite of the elite, right? He's saying Texas is so good, they should be able to be the elite of the elite in the Big 12. Whatever conference it is, they can be the elite of the elite. That's the way that I take that. I don't know. That comes across to me as a little bit like just trying to grovel at the feet of Texas. I don't know what exactly the play is there, but that seems to me to be like, hey, Texas, like, see, I still like you. I still like you. I still think you're cool. Look, Texas, they left. They're leaving. They don't care about you, Baylor. They don't care about you, Mack Rhodes. They don't care about any of us. The arrogance is moving on to the SEC. Just let it happen. I'm not going to sit here and try and gas up Texas by telling them that you guys really are better than that. No, they're not. They're not. And we all know that they're not. Okay. So let's just stay away from that. Sam Kahn Jr. says Big 12 Commissioner Bob Bowlsby says he or his staff have not directly or indirectly had conversations with other institutions about joining the conference. I think that's an important thing to hit on because it emphasizes a point that I've tried to make from the beginning of conference realignment gate that we've had here since a couple of Wednesdays ago. And that is that this is going to move pretty slowly. It took 6 months of working behind the scenes in the back channels for this SEC deal to come together for Oklahoma and Texas. This is not going to happen overnight. And whatever's going to happen with the Big 12, these other schools, the Big 10, if they're going to try and raid the pack, like there are so many things that will have to play out here over a long period of time. And we're getting close to actual football season starting, which I would have to imagine is going to slow some of that down. So I know everybody likes their theories, and I guess that's good news for those of us. If you're trying to do YouTube videos on like, hey, here's my theory for what the conference should be, there's plenty of time to do that. And I think there will be plenty of time to do that as things move forward. Now, an important piece here in terms of the financials for the 8 teams remaining. Max Olson says Bob Bowlsby reiterated that if Texas and Oklahoma give notice they wish to depart early and pay the exit penalty, the grant of rights is still enforced until 2024-25. Quote, it's an irrevocable granting of those TV rights to the conference, end quote. So what that means is Bowlsby is saying, hey, you can leave. You can pay this $70 to $80 million exit fee. We will still get the TV money from your home games until 2025, because that's what the grant of rights is supposed to be. You're giving up the value of your home football games until 2025. The Big 12 pulls in that money. So the Big 12 theoretically would still be pulling in money of Ole Miss at Oklahoma or Florida at Oklahoma or whatever the game is going to be. And that is something that gives me some confidence. The Bowlsby's still bringing the fire here, right? If he's going to be going after them with that. And I think that's like, these are the kinds of things that people just assume like, oh, Oklahoma and Texas, they'll just write a check. It'll be fine. They'll get it figured out. And really in the end, that may be basically true, but it is going to be a hefty check. It is going to be a hefty check, even for Texas or Oklahoma, even for Texas, which has like a $3 billion endowment. Like that's still going to be tough. And that will be something that hurts. And I think the Big 12, especially if any of this ESPN stuff is true, is going to be in a good position to keep a lot of that money. Senator Juan Hinojosa tells Bob Bowlsby the Big 12 wasn't aggressive enough to anticipate realignment and improve the revenue situation. Bowlsby says, quote, I disagree with that assertion. I think I would agree and disagree with a couple of points on there. I think one, 2016, everybody wants to push this 2016 realignment. Like Oklahoma was for expansion in 2016. Look, if the Big 12 would have just done that, they wouldn't be in this position. BS, man. BS. If you think having Houston and Cincinnati in the conference right now would have actually changed where we're at, you are crazy. You're crazy. That's just a piling on the Big 12. and a piling on of Bob Bowlsby kind of a take to have there. But I could also see how you would say, like, hey, you should have done something. Like Bowlsby, if the schools were this unhappy behind closed doors, you should have had a better pulse of this. You should have had some better plan here. And if that's what you want to say, I can't disagree with that. I really can't. There's a rundown of what Bob Bowlsby had to say today. I'll continue with more conference realignment updates, obviously, as everything continues to evolve. But once again, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. If you like the content here, you can like the video, comment, give me your opinion, give me your take. Am I wrong on any of this? Am I an idiot? Call me out for it, man. Just hit the comments, hit the likes, hit the subscribe button. It helps out a ton. And I'll talk to you soon.